Assalamualaikum and greeting everyone. Welcome to my final year project presentation. My name is Syaza263686 binti Ahmad Sahri, a final year student in Bachelor of Technology Management. The title of my final year project is Building Information Modeling Implementation in Construction Project from Contractor Perspective. I have been supervised by my lecturer, Prof. Madhya, Sir Dr. Muhammad Nasrun bin Muhammad Nawi. First, let's begin with introduction, which is background of study, problem statement, objective of study, and significance of study. The building sector is one of the new initiatives that has contributed to the country's economic success. Construction is the second biggest industry after agriculture. The construction industry in Malaysia has been recognized as a key contributor to the Malaysian economy, accounting for between 3 to 5% of the country's yearly gross domestic product. Malaysians in the construction sector must now enhance construction whether in terms of management, technology or practice in order to compete worldwide since the industry has to evolve much in terms of technology since the 1960s and continue to depend on foreign labor and all practices. Building information modeling is a new information technology tool that has just been introduced to the building sector. BIM is also utilized in the architecture, engineering, and construction business as a collaborative tool based on numerous software solutions. These are the project management technique and approaches. This BIM is intended to assist AEC project team in attaining improved level of information quality and resource management. The Director of Work, JKR, in Malaysia advocated the usage of BIM in 2007. Following the government awareness of BIM's capacity to cut construction costs while addressing design flaws during the planning phase, this step was taken. Furthermore, BIM is seen as a holistic activity that promotes cooperation among construction stakeholders such as engineer, contractor, architect, and project manager. In general, BIM gives advantage and convenience to major construction industry implemented throughout the design process as well as shortening the time scale at design work. Now, we move to problem statement. Currently, BIM is being steadily implemented by the world's most industrialized government and sector. BIM attained its pinnacle of use in maintenance and surveying during the post-construction era. However, BIM adoption remains low and BIM implementation in Malaysia is inadequate. This is due to a lack of national BIM normative standard to follow as well as a lack of management engagement. The construction sector is still learning how to utilize BIM. The construction sector, which encompasses micro, small, and medium-sized firms, confront a number of hurdles in terms of BIM adoption, making this company unwilling to take a chance. It is critical to understand that perception on BIM implementation hurdles range among businesses with different expertise and measurement. Next objective. The researchers have identified the following priorities. First, to explore the benefit of BIM implementation in construction projects. Second, to describe the challenge faced by the construction industry while implementing BIM. And third, to describe solution strategy to overcome obstacles that occur while implementing BIM in construction. So now, significance of the study. Challenge encountered during BIM implementation are addressed and all information gathered are critical for specific party. According to the study suggestion, contractor or stakeholder must constantly enhance the project quality and performance. Indirectly, the problem of BIM deployment have been quickly solved. The findings of this research are critical for other construction sectors, particularly small and medium-sized businesses involved in BIM implementation. Now, methodology. Methodology have two parts, which is data collection and also data analysis. Respondents should have at least 2 years of work experience involving several complete local BIM projects. This criteria was excluded in experienced research graduates involved in Malaysia construction project. This is because they do not know about the implementation of BIM in the industry. In addition, respondents must possess the necessary skill, qualifications, and knowledge relevant to the field. Board selection criteria are important to ensure that respondents have the competence, particularly in work discipline, to discuss each objective throughout the study. the respondents were selected in such a way that they were geographical spread and represented different parts of the project organization such as developer, designer, contractor, and consultant to generate different opinions. 5 respondents were identified as suitable and call was made against them 2 weeks before the date for the interview. However, due to time availability, only 3 people agreed to be interviewed. Instead, a code, for example, R1 and R2, used to identify the respondent. As you can see here, this is profile of the respondent. Interview questions were prepared in advance before this individual interview were conducted. So this is the interview question for the respondent. We move to data analysis. The process of data analysis begins by recording and record each conversation between the researcher and respondent. During this interview, the researcher used equipment such as notebook that contains several questions posed to the respondent. The researcher also used a smartphone to record the voice and every explanation through by the respondent. The result of the interview that were completed, the researcher translate the transcript from Malay to English. The researcher rewrite each recorded discussion one by one. Therefore, the researcher needs to focus to ensure that not a single word is left out while typing the conversation. Now, we move to analysis and discussion of findings. For the benefit of implementing BIM in construction project, first, BIM facilitate in project design. All respondents state that the main benefit gained while implementing BIM were simplification and of visualization, design study, 3D coordination, site analysis, existing situation modeling, authoring design, record modeling, asset management, code validation, and increased productivity. According to an experienced BIM consultant, respondent 2, BIM can reduce the problem of finding a site and documentation for a project in a more orderly and correct manner. Second, make planning easier during the pre-construction and construction phase. BIM consultant, respondent 2, noted that the use of BIM in the construction phase allows for workflow coordination and scheduling, while in the initial pre-construction stage, it includes material estimation, site, logistics, and virtual crane construction costs. He also pointed out that collision detection is an important part of 3D BIM coordination that can detect issues between different decisions and models to find the most effective way to connect an issue that device during the construction phase. Third, to overcome the cost issue. Cost is one of the benefit devised after the use of BIM. For example, when creating a project, quantity surveyor will estimate and calculate the considerable cost of something such as the cost of drawing, printing drawing, and measuring length and width. So, with the help of this BIM, it will identify and detect any collision that are likely to occur before starting a project. Respondent 2 also stated that BIM has the potential to resolve any conflict before the project is implemented on site before it becomes critical. For example, site issues that require relatively high cost production after the installation of the building are performed. Next, the challenge that company face during implementing BIM. First, different perspective on BIM implementation. Respondent 2 stated that view from various perspectives on what BIM was depends on a particular person to implement it. He also noted that professionals from various AEC industry want BIM equipment to combine all the capabilities of CAD to remain benefiting from this implementation. Second, poor match with the client requirement. Respondent 1 and Respondent 2 said the issue of challenge in BIM implementation is difficult to adapt BIM equipment to client needs. Respondent 1 argued that most clients who want to build projects do not find any tool in BIM to meet their needs, and some others state that BIM is not easy to implement and use. The client perceived that it was very difficult equipment to implement as it had various technology and procedure while linking BIM with the project. Third, policy issue. Discussion about licensing can arise when the party in a project have different understanding and those about the contribution of information integrated into the model. He explained that the current process of BIM to ensure the accuracy and updating of BIM data was a risk. Interview of Respondent 2 also discussed from a client perspective for why industry should implement BIM when There is no mandate from a government asking all AEC industry to implement BIM, and for why industry should spend expensive money to adapt BIM in project. This issue becomes an agreement between the consultant and client while persuading them to use BIM and the same model. And lastly, disinterest and lack of demand. This is because they are accustomed to the old way and they are convinced that the existing entity-based CAD system was capable of meeting the needs of project design and drafting in their view. He noted that architects are more inclined and confident in using BIM if they can see hard gains in project productivity in contrast to conventional CAD. For the company's strategy to overcome the challenge in the implementation of BIM, first train and educate individuals. All respondents agree that the solution that needs to be taken to overcome the issue of BIM implementation is to provide workshops to learn and train individuals in use of new technologies such as BIM. Second, mandate the use BIM in industry. Stakeholders need to set a policy whereby all construction industry, large or small, should implement BIM in the industry. Respondent 2 state all industry have complete BIM requirement either from the concurrent authority or client and mandate full use of BIM in the project. To make an industry not left behind with the modernization, it is necessary to issue capital regardless of a little or many quantities. This is to produce a better project. The time also to be given to seeking knowledge and expertise in BIM is within a long time. The researcher has explained in more detail related to the result of the study that has been implemented by the researcher. As a result of the study, researchers have used individual and semi-structured interview instruments. The purpose of the study is to identify the benefit, challenge, and strategic solution in the implementation of BIM in construction project. The result of the discussion made in the interview can help the researcher in obtaining clear and accurate information and provide a more in-depth explanation of the researcher based on the question and objectives set by researcher. And lastly, for our recommendation for future work, further studies are needed in terms of the investigation and validation process among BIM practitioners, whether in Malaysia or abroad, to convince the level of effectiveness of BIM application in the construction industry in Malaysia. Since Malaysia and other ASEAN countries are currently hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, further study can use quantitative methods to collect thorough data while answering our questions. Research can also interview more contractors or BIM practitioners to obtain more accurate and clear information either virtually or physically to obtain in-depth data. Further study should focus on the critical success factor aspect of the implementation of BIM in the construction industry to create a sense of industry interest in making more positive change. So, that's all for my final year project presentation. With that, I thank you.